We're back. We're here. We're in it. We're talking. We're saying things out our face. We're trying to communicate things that are difficult to communicate because that's what we want to do. We want to feel heard and seen, and we want to express. That's why we're here. We're here to express, to share, to emote, to present ourselves um, to whoever, whatever is out there. That's why we're here. Um, yeah, we're here as expressions of the same thing, of the same power. Um, I didn't say the expressions are the same, but we're expressing the same thing, the same force, the same nature that's in each and every one of us, and because the reason it looks different to everybody is because we're all doing it our own unique way. There's a certain expression that is like a unique thumbprint to each person. It looks a little bit different from person to person. So you as my neighbor express the same thing, but uniquely yours. So take any emotion, anger. I will express anger. We feel it the same way, running through our bodies. Some of us might feel it more intensely or less intensely than others, or there might be other layered things on top that prevent you from feeling it the same way that I might. But the way that you go to express anger is vastly different than I would express anger. And same thing with joy. But if you think of a joyous event or occasion where you're with your buddies or your friends, and you know that you're all in joy, maybe it's like a big belly laugh where you can't help it, and it just overcomes both of you at the same time. It's the same emotion. It's so obvious because you're connected in that emotion, but you're expressing it uniquely. It's different the way that it comes out, and uh, if we were to just keep that a little bit more front and center, that makes it easier to deal with difficult people or to navigate challenging situations. You recognize that if people are not able to get to that full expression of themselves, there's probably something going on. They're in pain. Something's on their mind, but you can come to a situation in a much more forgiving manner, a much higher level understanding of even compassion is the way that I would put it. Um, to see their trials and tribulations. Now, you have choices that you can engage with certain types of people. There are certain types of people that we kind of enable by sometimes not knowing how to tell them things or what to say to them. But we're back to the first thing that we shared about expression. Um, I think what we all yearn for is a higher way to express truth to people that we care about, or our loved ones, or to ourselves, um, about improvements or things that you're noticing. Um, I think the focus always has to come back on yourself. Um, if you're playing a game to change other people or to get people to see what you see or feel what you feel, it's just not going to be successful. You're playing a game that I think of the term polarity. Um, you're trying to get them to see what you see, and what that is a polarity. You're trying to get them from point A to point B instead of a full acceptance of where that person is. And you don't need to be whatever you think you're getting out of having that person see and feel what you see and feel. I would I would challenge you to think about what that is. Is it because you think you're going to be more understood? Is it because you're going to feel more loved? Is it because you're going to feel more included or more inclusive in a group? I would challenge that. Even all those things are things that are external. If you're propping up your belongability into a group by other people's approval, we're just playing external games at this point. What I want to share is that I've made this discovery. I've come across this other way to play a game where everything comes from the internal, and when you're able to, you use the external to understand the mirror that your internal is showing you. But this game is all, it's a one player game. It's all about yourself. The people and the situations in your reachable universe are all configurations of your mind. You created these people and these events. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. You created them. So eventually the question becomes, is this what I want? Is there a different way to play this game? How should I be paying attention to these people and these events that I'm noticing now in my life? So I'm noticing patterns, or I notice I feel a certain type of way when I'm around this type of person, or I have to submit some of my expression or the way I would naturally behave out of a perception of how it would be perceived or received by the other person. Might be like a fear of judgment. It could be you don't want to ruffle feathers, acting or saying certain things around. Picture a life where you have full expression and anything goes. You can be yourself all the time, always. And there's no hesitation, there's no fear. So long as you understand that you're not impeding upon other people's, well, sometimes that's what happens. And some people are, that's a reason that people shy away from their full expression, is because of a fear that other people will be inhibited by your full expression. When somebody's in their full expression, it reminds you of why you can't be in yours. And so the automatic feelings are resentfulness and regret and dislike or hatred. Think about what that is, though. You're rejecting the full expression. You're rejecting the full potential. And when you see it in somebody else, because you're reminded of the parts of you that aren't able to get to that point. It's got to start with somewhere, and you got to be able to realize when you notice it in other people that you might not know how to multiply that for them or lift them up, and they might not need that from you. But one thing you sure as hell should not do is tear them down or let them know that the way they're acting is making you feel uncomfortable. That's not their responsibility. That's what people are realizing, is that if your light's going to shine, if you're going to be who you are, you gotta assume that it's good for everyone. That what's good for you is good for everyone, because we're all expressions of the same thing. Go back to the beginning, right? So while your full expression may lead to conflict, who's to say conflict should be avoided? Maybe conflict is a good thing. You being in your full expression will cause other people to have friction with your expression, and that friction is the indicator of what they need to work on themselves. Whatever they're rejecting or whatever they're judging about your full expression is an indicator where they're judging the lack of full expression in themselves. And so it's a beautiful thing. There's clues all over the place with how to live this life. And once you become clear on the sort of expressions that you want to have and the types of feelings that you want to have, you start to be able to feel them in your body before it even feels right to feel them. And what I mean by that is we usually attach an outside event. If I go on a great excursion to a national park and I see this beautiful land, I feel a certain way in my body. It's beautiful, right? That's why people go on the trip. But what I'm here to tell you is that feeling was in your body before you got to that national park. It was actually the feeling you felt in your body before that drew you to want to have the experience to recreate that feeling. So you actually felt it when you were daydreaming about it, or when the idea popped in your mind to go on that trip, you felt it already in your body. And so that, in that sense, you draw it towards you. That's what people call manifesting. So if you think of what manifesting is, it's embodying the feeling that you want, want to have, and your mind has already attached an idea to that, a visualization to that feeling that might help cause you to feel that way. And so that's beautiful. That's a crazy idea, but that's how it works. And if you're experiencing things in your external world that are um, undesirable, I would challenge you to think about how you're creating them. I would challenge you to think about how you're creating them. And here's the best way you can do it is to just name it. Name your external world. Start saying things. I don't want that, and here's why. Whenever I'm around this person, they make me feel this type of way. Think about what that means. Go deeper with what that means for you. Why do you feel that way around them? What can't you do? What expression aren't you allowed to have? What are you afraid to say to them? What are you afraid that they'll say to you? Know thyself. Once you understand yourself and how you operate and why you operate the way that you do, and once you realize that you're creating the events in your life and that you can create higher, bigger, better events, you start to wonder what that formula is and what the gap is and how to close that. And you just start asking questions. How do I close that gap? You'll get the answers. That's the cool thing. But this concept of truth of yourself and your full expression, because once you are able to do that, then you're able to see it in other people. You're able to navigate conflict and friction from this, like, from a higher state. It's almost like when you're in the presence of a guru, right? Like everything that comes out of his mouth is like, what? Like I wouldn't even have thought of that. Like, but just a simple line puts so many things in perspectives that, like, I get it. It was so simple, but it makes so much sense on a complex level. It's that way with managing conflict. Once you know yourself, like you're your own guru, so to speak, because you've asked yourself those questions and you're able to speak in those phrases with yourself. And so then you're able to do it with other people. And it's just a cool place to be. And someone once told me that this work helps your nervous system, right? So you're addressing things that you might be fearful of or that cause you discomfort. And as you address those things, they don't affect you the way that they did before. And so in a way, every time you do that, you're upgrading your nervous system. You stay calmer with more events that happen in your external. You're less ruffled by external stimuli. So you can sit there like a tree in a storm, calm and present, and you're not triggered with just about anything that people say. And so as you get to that point with yourself, through knowing yourself, the strongest nervous system wins in every situation, every scenario, because you're literally carrying a frequency into every place that you go. And so that's why high vibrational people never find themselves in low vibrational places, because wherever they go, they're carrying their high frequency with them. And their high frequency cannot, like, they become sick if they are around lower frequency places. This is why as people elevate, they might change, right? You might perceive them as acting differently or being a different person. Literally what they're doing is changing their frequency and vibration through addressing their nervous system that they have to make different choices of how to preserve that and how to foster that like the power of that nervous system. And it's not around doing the events from before or hanging around with the same people as before. And that might be like, you might wonder why it's worth it then. But I'm telling you, it makes everybody around you better too, because you're holding a higher frequency of stand. Like, people enjoy being around you. It's an attraction frequency. And in a way, they like them wanting to be around you. They learn from you. They feed off of your good vibration. They see your interactions with others, um, that is less confrontational. It's not avoiding the conflict. It's actually addressing the conflict in a way that's like a win-win-win. You become more sage-like in the way that you communicate and operate. Yeah, so these phenomena are just kind of cool to talk about. um, I'm wondering how else I can summarize that, or if there's any other analogies. There's a certain part of the letting go. So the person who is elevating or ascending, if you will, um, there's a part of the old identity that's sometimes difficult to let go of. So you're constantly in a state of almost mourning, the way that things used to be, or the events that gave you great joy, but you're like trading out great joy for excellent joy or like preposterous joy. um, you're literally becoming a different person. um, I had this described to me recently. We'll try this on. It's going to be a stretch for a lot of people, um, but I like it when I hear it. When you think about, for anybody who does shadow work, maybe I'll briefly talk about shadow work before we dive into this. Shadow work indicates that there's something about you that is in shadow. It's hidden from you. Um, the concept is that you went through a difficult situation in your past, quite often your childhood, and that situation was so painful or traumatic to you, or like you just don't want to admit it, or like there's no sense that it doesn't make any sense to relive it or to think about it. So your mind, to protect you from that feeling, will shove it off into like a dark corner of your mind and put it in shadow. So if you're doing shadow work, you're constantly like recalling these scenarios and these situations from your past, and you're arriving at a higher truth of what actually happened during those situations. And that's what people call healing. That is literally healing, is going back and understanding what's happened. Now, there's people who are in therapy or take therapy or go to a therapist where they talk about it. And that can have some different impacts of like bringing up, you can make it worse sometimes by, unless you address it. I have happened to come across a multitude of ways of addressing stuff like that is effective for me and what I call my healing. So let's just recap real quick. So, experience you had long ago, didn't feel good and felt really uncomfortable. To protect you from feeling that feeling, your mind put it into shadow, and now you're old enough to revisit that situation and do the healing. And so here's how I wanted to tie this all together. Is like, what is the healing? Well, like, what does that mean? I used to ask, like, what does it mean to heal? Well, you're literally addressing the feeling that you had in your body when you first had that experience. Okay, so some people are so numb to their bodies and these feelings that they don't even know what I'm talking about. But this is why you do the work, so you can get back in touch with those feelings. And I'm here to, like, this is the superpower. So we'll talk about that later. But when you feel that, it's like a nastiness, it's unpleasant. That's why you sent it away. But you bring it back and you feel it all the way through, and it holds wisdom in it, and you talk to it and you ask it questions. And then what you do is you like reprogram it and say, I understand and I hear the way that you were feeling and why you felt the way that you did at that time. And here's what's happening now and what we see after, gaining emotional intelligence through existing after this experience and the rest of our lives. And this is what we can feel now. And we can come to a place of wholeness of accepting this part of ourselves and re-embodying what we send away. So you're literally calling back energy into your body. That is the healing. And then you're like upgrading its vibration to one of a more loving and accepting vibration. You want to accept all the experiences that you've had. That's what makes you you. That's what makes you vibrate at the highest levels, is a full embodiment of everything that you've been through. So that's what healing is. That's what shadow work is. And now you can see how I'm tying this together. The more of this shadow work that you understand about yourselves, the more complete that you are, because you have full energy, full range of energy in your body. And when you feel that fear or that shame or that guilt or whatever was difficult to feel that you sent away, you're able to, like, it gives you power. You're able to access a higher level of joy, a higher vibrational level of joy or happiness or peace or calmness. How few of us sit still nowadays? Like, even people who meditate 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Try to meditate for a half hour at a time. Try to sit so still without itching yourself or going to the bathroom. It is a superpower to be able to do that. But it's the flexing of that muscle that allows you to be present and calm in your relationships or in your triggers. But think of how difficult it is for people to sit in their power, is what I would call it. I've done meditations before that are called sit in your power, and that's what you do, is you feel it's your power. It's your like your body tingles, your sensations come online when you're still. If you're constantly moving throughout the day, you're not allowing, like, there's wisdom in the silence. And these pregnant pauses, I'm doing it for dramatic sake right now, but you get nudged in these silences. You get like little things dropped in that when you hear and feel them, you're like, yeah, I'm going with that. I'm going in that direction. I'm going to say that thing because it feels good. So the pregnant pauses are where your true power lies. And now think about how much of your environment fosters the possibility for that. Quite often, not a lot of it. Make time. That's what I would say. That's why there's a great book out there I read years ago called Miracle Morning for Salespeople. And this miracle morning is just carving out time in the morning before everybody gets up, before you're getting emails. Now, obviously, that takes some commitment to go to bed earlier, or to to map out when it would actually happen, and where and how, and what you'd actually do with the time when you woke up. But there's something to be said about carving out that time and being still and present and not feeling rushed. How much do we feel rushed throughout our day, going from one thing to the next? It's almost like when we get the downtime, we need the next rush, like, quickly. Yeah, the stillness is the key, and a lot of people miss that. That's okay. But anyways, how should we close here? Should we close with our clothes? We don't need to talk about our clothes. The more that you discover along the path, the more possibilities there are. Like the more work that you do, the more potential that you see. And so that's another reason why things that mattered before don't matter as much now, because there's things that matter even more deeply that are coming online. And the excitement level to pursue those things are, they overshadow some of the former things. So yeah, get yourself a group of people who you all help to elevate. That's another key. Um, yeah, surround yourself with people who don't make you feel small as you elevate and as you grow, even if you're changing. Um, the people who are closest to you, who are ready to hear, or even on their own journey, will support you. Um, it's just cool. It's cool to be able to upgrade, to be able to realize your power as a creator, to overcome challenging situations, to understand lessons at a deep level, to communicate so deeply and thoroughly with yourself that you can be very intuitive around other people. Um, yeah, it's just, we're meant to have fun along the way. And like true fun that you can have with yourself. You ever crack yourself up with a joke? You ever laugh when you're alone? I think that's a true measurement of how slow you're going, how much you're pausing. Like, are you feeling funny? Are you feeling in your body funny? When you're by yourself and get a joke or something that comes across your mind that's clever or punny. Anyways, it's good to just talk through like a stream of consciousness about this stuff. Um, I'm excited. I'm going to run a workshop on some of these things in the month of December. It's going to be very cost friendly for anyone who wants a little bit more formal of a dose of this. We'll do it with a group of people. Whoever wants to come can show up, and we'll do it for a few Thursdays in a row in December. And yeah, just looking to add value to people, maybe teach some concepts and how to do some of these things. And then take questions, or take your questions, whatever you're wanting to know about this work or yourself or your journey. I think we're going to do that here. So there'll be a launch in the next couple of days. Keep an eye out for that. If you, depending on where you're seeing this, just you can find me, find the postings, and sign up for it. Anyways, yeah, I'm just grateful to take this time to do this. This is a version of pause for me. This is like a golden thread of pause. I don't love sitting still all the time, so this is a version of sitting still to where I get to work my way through what's going on inside. So thanks for being a witness, and we'll see you next time.